Hey TD Superheroes, I'm Alejandro Perez, your sidekick, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at connecting elements to the face rig to be able to move them with it that are not part of the head mesh that we have here. So some elements that will be needed to work on: eyes, brows, hair, the teeth on the top and the bottom, and the tongue, which is a little bit hard to see here. You can see it in a wireframe. Take back to 0. So there we go. So that is what we are going to be working on, because everything else right now should be working. So we have eye movement, we have brow movement, then we have nose and mouth. The mouth, we do have to at some point connect this to the mouth movement, but we're gonna focus on the geometry right now, getting all the geometry to move with it, and then we will get the mouth movement working properly. So right now there is one other thing that, actually no, we won't focus on that, but I did do an update where I created the weights path. We'll use this in a future lesson, but just to show you guys that you can actually update the weights path so that we can apply it. I haven't added that to the script yet, but we can see how we would do that here. We basically create a variable that is a file dialog2, set the file mode to 1. The caption is just what the window says, select weight map file. And then we apply it to the field that we have here. And then later on, we'll be using this field to get information for being able to attach the weights when we are doing everything automatically. But for right now, we're going to be focusing on these elements here, where we want to attach those to the skeleton. So that way it moves, or the mesh. So that way it moves with the mesh. So let's move towards the top, because it'll be a little bit easier to see what each one of those are. So we have the name of each one of these items here. The only difference is that when we are adding the selection for the field, we actually add underscore field at the end, so that way we can query that value. So let's go ahead, and after we bind the skeleton, create a new function or call to a function that we're going to be creating. Let's say call it attach geo parts. And then let's build out that function. And like I said, we'll do it up here, so that way we can see the names of all the items. Define geoparts. And then right now we'll do pass. So each one of these fields here are associated to geometry. This little UI in a past video, we went through and discussed how to set up like a button where we can update the elements. So that way, if your character model has a different naming convention, you can grab the naming from these elements here. Eventually we're going to add the naming of the joints. I haven't gotten up to that point yet, but we'll add the joints down here as well, so that way we can create default names for the joints that don't necessarily have to go with this naming convention unless you want a different naming convention, so that you can use a different naming convention, but we'll set the defaults as well. So let's take a look at attaching this. So we're going to want to be able to parent constraint things to different joints. In this case, we're going to code directly the name of the joint. Eventually, like I said, we're going to have a variable that we will search for that joint. So let's call this GNT is going to be equal to, actually we'll say jaw GNT. you know what? We can define another function because we're going to have to attach things in different ways. So we'll define attach to GNT. There we go. And then we'll call this function in here. And we'll do that for each one of the joints. So the first thing we want to do here is, actually, we got too many spaces there. There we go. Too many spaces here as well for some reason. There we go. Okay, so in here we want to get the geo that we're going to be connecting to. So connected geo, and that is going to be equal to, let's set a variable here, geo. Okay. Actually, since we're going to be feeding that in there, we don't need to define it. The first thing that's going to be the geo, let's work with the lower jaw because it's going to be the easiest to see, which is going to be the lower teeth field. So lower teeth underscore field, and this should be in quotes there. So once we have that, I guess we do need to connect the geo. Connected geo is going to be equal to mc.text field group, or not group, sorry, geo. Gonna say query equals true, and tx equals true. And then that gives us the geometry name. So what we can do is say mc.group connected geo, and we are going to name it connect. We'll do it with an F string. Connected geo underscore grp, and we'll call this 0 grp, and then we can close quotes, and then we are going to create another group, and this time we're going to be connecting this item here, and we'll call this, actually, so this one's going to be called offset because of the order we're doing it in. Offset grp, and then we have offset grp, and then we're creating a 0 group. So basically we are putting the connected geometry inside of 2 groups. One zeroes out the transforms. Then the second one we can use as an offset. And then we are going to take this offset group and actually parent it to the geometry. So we will set the direct name here of the jaw. Eventually, like I said, we'll switch this out for a variable, but that gives us the ability to use that as a joint. So we'll connect here GNT, and then we're going to say mc.parent constraint, and we are going to have the target be the joint. The item to be constrained is going to be this group, and we should probably name these. So 0 is going to be equal to that, and then actually offset, sorry. Offset is going to be equal to that, and then 0 is going to be equal to this, and then we'll connect offset here. And then we're going to say maintain offsets is equal to true. So that way we don't get the geometry shifting. Okay, so this should work. before I go running everything, I'm just going to focus on this one part so that we can see if it works properly. So we're going to run all this here. So we should see that we have the 0 group, the offset group, then we have the teeth and the constraint inside of here. Now if we select this joint here, we can see that the teeth move with the jaw. There is some weighting issues that we can work with a little bit so that way it doesn't go into the geometry, but as far as it moving here, it moves properly. Like I said, I just have to update the weights so that way it looks a little bit better here, but we can see that it's working. So let us reset the transformations here, and I'm going to remove that, and then we have this again just so that we can work with everything else, and then delete by type history so that way that geometry doesn't have any history again. There we go. Now that we have that working, we can see what else we need to attach. So using this parenting method, oops, I got the whole thing running again. There we go. We have the teeth that we did, but we need to do the tongue to the lower jaw, and then the upper teeth are going to go to the head, the eyes are going to go to the head, and then the hair and the brows are actually going to be using a different method. So we're going to have upper teeth field, and that's going to the jaw as well. Then let's copy this, and this is going to be, actually the upper teeth are to the head. Let's change this to the tongue here. So tongue field is going to go to the jaw, then the upper teeth are going to go to the base head. So the head joint right here that we have selected, and then the eyes are going to be going to that same joint, so we can connect these here. We got two more, for one for each of the eyes. So we have the left eye, and then this is going to be the right eye. Okay, so now let's test that all those elements work. I'm just going to run this section of the code, and let's just clear the selection there just in case. Then run these. So we can see the teeth, tongue, the lower and upper teeth, and the eyes are all connected. So we can move this and it all moves with it. We can see that if we do this from the neck, nothing stays behind. Also, a good test with this at this point is seeing if the eyes still work, and they do here. So that is part of what we want to make sure we update with the using the groups, because if we did that but just parent constrained the actual geometry itself, it would actually break the connections that we developed here. So that is why we created the 0 and offset groups for situations like that. Okay, so now we need to do the brows. Actually, let me see with the, yeah, we're going to have to, because we need some deformation. So we're going to use a wrap deformer for this. And with these, we really don't need to group them ahead because they're not actually being transformed or anything. They're being deformed. So let's do mc.create wrap. Actually, we're going to need to select the items, so we will put that into the function. Define wrap to geo. Okay, so we have the create wrap, and then here what we are going to do is call the wrap2geo function, and inside of this function we're going to need some arguments. So we need the target and the deformed. So that's going to be the target geometry and the deformed geometry. And we're going to say mc.select, because for some reason the wrap deformer, it works a little bit differently and it's just easier to select the items. If there's any selection, we will clear the selection first. MC dot, and it's probably like overkill there, but I just want to be safe. Select, and then let's see, I think it's going to be deformed geometry, then target, and then we create the wrap. So the deformed geometry is going to be, or the target geometry is going to be the base head. So I'll take base head here, and this is going to be underscore field. And then the target geometry, we'll start off with the hair, underscore field. And then we can copy this, and then we basically switch out for brows instead of hair. So this gives us the field, but we need to actually get the command here to be able to get the connected geo. So, and we're going to need to do this twice. So connected geo target and connected geo deformed. Then we have target and deformed. And because we are getting the actual elements this way, the target is going to be here, and then deformed is going to be here. Okay, so let's go here, and I'm going to undo to the point where we have everything ungrouped again. There we go. And I'm going to run these commands. And if we did this correctly, when we move this, it will move it with it. And we should be able to see that if we, oops, not with the eye, but the brow. If we move the brow, we can move the geometry. So here, this is more of an issue of the deformers affecting kind of too much, where it's moving the back part of the head, but that might be okay for a stylized look. We can see that it does kind of move the hair quite a bit because the deformation is quite extreme here. But it is attached and it's moving with the geometry. Something that we could do is maybe have, because this was two separate pieces of geometry, edit or mesh separate. So we can take several pieces of geometry. We can take this whole section here that is the front part of the head, the hair, and let's combine that. And then here, and then this might not be an option for you guys. That's going to be, but it works with this style of model. So, and then we have both of these. Let's edit, delete by type, history, and then we can rename this as C underscore hair front underscore geo, and then C underscore hair base underscore geo. And then now that we have those, we can connect that to our path. So right now we have just the hair. So we'll say hair underscore front, and add one here that's going to be hair underscore base. And then we'll update this hair field here. So we're going to need one with base and front. Here. Underscore base underscore. And then let's copy this and paste it. And this is going to be front. And did I do a capital? I did. Okay, so I have the hair front, hair base. The only thing with this is that we're going to attach the hair to a joint, and we're going to use the head joint instead. And then I'm going to have to run the whole code in order for this to update, because I need the window. So I'm going to run all of this, and now that I've updated these variables, I can go back in and run this command here. And we have an error because everything was attached already. Oops, I need to go redo. Okay, so I'm going to need to take all of these pieces of geometry here, Shift P to unparent them, then clear that. Then we can get all of this geometry here and delete the history. And then let's try running this again. Let's clear these, hair front. Where am I using hair? Did I undo the hair? I did, so let's update this code. So we have the, no, we had that. This should be here for the hair front, and then this is the base. Okay, let's try that. So here I'm going to undo. So I have hair front, hair base. Do I have a hair geo? It doesn't look like it. Brow, okay. Let's try this again. We did get an error on line 77. I'm calling hair geo. Where are we calling hair geo? I'm gonna copy that and then do Control F and then search for hair geo. Oh, okay, we have the hair geo. We just need to update the names here. That's where we're going wrong. So we have the hair front. So I changed the field name, but I didn't change the actual name that's connected in there by default. Okay. So there we have everything connected again. So I'm going to comment this out for a second, run everything so it updates the tool, and then we can run. We actually only really need to run this lower teeth field not found. Lower teeth field. Let's copy this, and then we have lower teeth. That should be field at the end, unless I'm misspelling something there. Okay, let's comment this for a second. Run everything, should update the code now, and then let's do this. There we go. It looks like everything connected properly. So let's look at those brows. You can see that it deforms the head, but it doesn't deform that front part of the hair. It kind of interpenetrates a tiny bit, but that is okay. If we wanted to, we can kind of do a smaller deformation there, or just not push it as much. But that gives us a control, or we can even add like a kind of small controller here that will allow us to move the lower part of the hair with it if we wanted to. Okay, but that looks good. Now let's double check everything else. The mouth opens, the teeth go with it, and all of the head movement, it moves with it. And if we look at the eyes move independently. So we have everything connected. Something that I will work on between lessons is updating these weights, because we already discussed how to do the weights. I just want to improve the weights so that way they don't go through the teeth. But that will be it for this video, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.